So, Young Werther is your feature film debut,
Yes.
feature directing debut.
Yes. Yeah.
First off, congrats on that.
Thank
Uh,
you.
why start with Young Werther?
I mean, when I first wrote Young Werther, I was this 12 years ago, and I was just trying to sort of make it as a screenwriter. It was the fifth script I ever wrote, and I'd had some momentum with earlier ones, but this one sort of caught on at the time, and it had a different director attached. It was different actors set up at different studios and streamers over the years. Um, and I remember feeling a bit sad when we attached a director who was like a cool, interesting person. But I was like, oh, I kind of want to make Werther. But I hadn't directed anything at that point, so I started making music videos and shorts and commercials and sort of learning more about the craft. And then yeah, it got to the point with after one of the iterations of the film had sort of fallen apart, and I was like, let's try to put it together again, but with me directing. And yeah, it was out of all the things I've written over the years, it's the one that just felt closest to my heart and felt like something I could execute in a way that would be the movie that I want to see. And so yeah, yeah, that's the story.
Well, sounds like the perfect one to start with for sure.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
So, this is based off of a novel, a 1774 novel.
Yes.
So, that's important.
Yeah.
When did you first encounter this text, and what was it about the novel that really spoke to you enough to keep it going with a film?
Yeah. I wasn't aware of the book growing up, and then I was made to read it in a class in third year university called Coming of Age Literature. And it was one of the 18 books we were assigned that semester or whatever. And so I read it, I wrote my essay, I liked it, but didn't think too much of it beyond that. But it stuck with me. And about 10 years later, I sort of pulled the book back down off my shelf after I'd moved to a new place and was like, it's like this. And I reread it and I was like, man, why has there never been a major English language adaptation of this? Because it's this still widely revered book in Europe. It's taught, it's been adapted into European films, operas, musicals, plays, comic books, mangas. There's been so many different versions of it. And there's just something about it, like rereading it, where I was like, the characters are so interesting. The themes are as relevant today as they were 250 years ago. And it just felt like a very sort of rich, weighty text that, yeah, just felt like ripe for exploration in a contemporary setting.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, with themes being just as relevant to today as they were 250 years ago,
Yeah.
um, when modernizing the story, like, I guess how much work did you have to put into actually modernizing it?
I mean, there's the adaptation is like it's like less of a beat for beat recreation of the novel and more of a sort of like inspired by the general narrative shape of the book, the characters, and just Werther is this like charismatic, eccentric, interesting, intelligent, selfish, narcissistic, wonderful, captivating, horrible, beautiful guy who's also the worst cad. He just felt like a complex, real person, not this cardboard cutout of a suitor who's pursuing a cardboard cutout of a wonderful young lady. They felt like human beings, and I feel like the book treats everyone with sort of grace and sort of a gentle, depiction. Like there's in real life, there's no straight up heroes and villains. We're all our best selves on one day, our worst selves on another day, and the other 363 days a year, as I do that like simple math in my head, those other 363 days, we're somewhere in between. We're all I think everyone's doing their best at all times and trying to live in a world where you're connecting with people and pursuing romantic relationships, sure, but also pursuing friendships. And in Werther and Charlotte's case, they're trying to navigate what that means for someone that you have like a spark with, but the situation is such that there is no easy answer. It's not like, oh, let me throw my life away and be with you and it'll be romantic. It's like, well, that's uh, somewhat romantic, I guess, but I feel like, you know, it's a story that's grounded in sort of an authentic human experience, which is, you know, just because you uh, have a vibe with someone doesn't mean that that's uh, enough to upset your entire life. You know, it's I don't know. I think the questions of like uh, how you explore friendship or how you commit to someone or how you connect with someone, those are the things that I think have never changed and won't really change. Like we're all in a state of transition and uncertainty, and yeah, it's just about finding people in your life that make you laugh and that can be your sort of um, uh, what word am I looking for? The little oases in this vast. I'm trying to like come up with a metaphor right now. The oases in the vast desert of human loneliness. I don't know. I don't know. Like, trying my best. My 4-year-old has a cold right now, so I've been up all night giving her Motrin and yeah. So yeah.
Well, that
Uh,
was very poetic. What I
oh,
was going to come up with was from Friends, He's Your Lobster. So,
oh yeah, yeah. I like that too. Yes. Yes.
in your director's statement, you mentioned mingling the book's narrative with your own experiences.
Yeah.
So, how much of yourself did you put in this film? And then once you became attached as the director, did that amount change?
I mean, the writing is very much like, the source text is the source text, and and I spoke about what I drew from it. The writing of it is very much my sort of like natural writing voice, like I love comedy and drama equally. I love melodrama. I love heightened language. I love the rhythm of language. I love dialogue that sounds written. Like I love a like a Howard Hawks pace to dialogue. In terms of what I put into the characters, my brother's insight after reading the script for the first time. My brother produced the post on the film. His note was Werther is who you want to be, but Paul is who you actually are. And I was like, God, that stings, but it's true. You nailed it. Yeah, I mean, I've always liked characters in the general Werther vein, the Ferris Bueller types, the like person with all the answers who is maybe not the best person in the world, but kind of can, access their emotions in a real way and yeah, show empathy, show enthusiasm. I would like to think on my best days I can do those things. And yeah, yeah, that's yeah, yeah.
One thing that I really liked is at the beginning, you mentioned that this is Beatlemania, but for books,
Yes.
um, which is really funny because I studied Beatlemania in
Oh
college.
yeah?
So,
Amazing.
like, oh, this is great.
I was
Um,
just listening to the Beatles today after not listening to, like I don't think I've thrown the Beatles on Spotify in like months, but for whatever reason I was in the car earlier today and I was like, let me throw on that like Beatles 1964 to 1967 anthology thing. And anyway, sorry, continue.
it was a good day for it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, why mention that?
I think like just to help, off the top, I wanted it to feel I wanted a nod to sort of like the original text. I wanted to like like nod to the original text and also establish that there are I'm going to say this in a way that sounds somewhat eloquent. To establish that like the tone of the film and the characters in the film are like it's a contemporary adaptation, but it's rooted in something timeless. And even bring up Beatlemania. You know, I remember there was a note from maybe one of the financing bodies, and they were like, "Oh, is there like a hipper way of saying that?" And I was like, "No, it's Beatlemania because it's the '60s, and that's I want to evoke. I want it to feel." Like it's happening today, but also at any point, you know, like I want it like book this story has survived for 250 years. It's going to survive forever. It's one of those, you know, it's one of those texts that has its own engine and has characters that I think are going to be fascinating to an audience in any age. And so, yeah, I wanted to drop Beatlemania at the beginning. I wanted to have those laurels on the corners and have it feel like silent film, but then also bring in the soundscape and have this beautiful score by Owen Pallett that just, you know, it's full of you know, he wrote us an original waltz. The instrumentation he used, the choral pieces, he went back to sort of Germanic classical tradition and just wrote this beautiful thing, but that's still, you know, as the film progresses, becomes more contemporary, it brings in more instruments. I wanted the wardrobe to have that sort of any era feeling. I wanted the production design that Kira Vernon and her team did so beautifully in the hotel. Like I wanted that to feel like a space out of time. I wanted it all to feel like it, yeah, it could be happening anytime because it is, because these emotions are timeless and so the film should reflect that.
Is a nice little Easter egg that I found, but you're right. It like gives it that timeless era.
Yeah, yeah, good eye.
My final question for you is because the novel is titled The Sorrows of Young Werther, why kind of drop the first part and just title the film Young Werther?
Another perceptive spot. There was, you know, throughout the process, often producers would be like, you know, if we want to take advantage of if we want to take advantage of the cachet of the book, we should be using the whole title. And I was like, yeah, but this film is it's not pure melancholy. It's not pure Sturm und Drang. It's not pure um, uh, it's not this yeah, super downer experience. It's a film that is um different. It's a version of this character and it's a version of this story that leans more into yeah, this human experience, this character who uh is to me quite funny is uh yeah, who in watching his story, it's like I wanted to feel optimistic. I wanted to feel hopeful about yeah, friendships and romance. I wanted to feel um not sorrowful, not completely sorrowful because it's but I mean calling the film the sorrows and joys and triumphs and failures and you know listing all of the emotions wouldn't fit on the poster, you know. So we just have to drop it and let the film speak all those details aloud for us and just yeah, watch this world of just young Werther.
And that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me again. I love the film and especially the Beatlemania nod.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words and for saying that, and apologize that I'm like running out of steam a little bit as I'm like searching for words and like oh God, I feel like on my first cup of coffee at 9 a.m. I'm a little more eloquent than you know, cold coffee number four, where I'm like, oh, what's that? What's the word for enthusiasm? Oh, enthusiasm. Yeah, that's yeah.
So
Anyway,
we've all been there.
well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.